talk a little bit about leaving the nest and a few things that I've been able to accumulate in my now almost 20-year career in media. Media that has changed quite a bit, right? Even just in your lifetimes. Think about how you used to watch television or listen to the radio and how you do it now. A lot has changed. And that's going to become really important as you guys move on in your lives and in your work careers, because everything is changing, right? Think about people who are or were taxi drivers, and now with the Uber economy that is out there, right? Think about all these different industries that you're going to start to learn about and you're going to start to focus on that are changing at such a rapid pace that you have to continue to evolve yourselves. That's why I think this Subiendo program is so amazing. I hope you guys realize that you are so fortunate, and I understand that you guys all worked extremely hard to be here, and that you are top of your class, and you should be so very proud and do not take it for granted. Having traveled the entire country and spoken at a lot of universities, I can tell you there is very few, if any, programs like the Subiendo program. 80 students from all over Texas, every single city imaginable within the state of Texas, and all of you here for almost a week, just able to concentrate on learning, on really learning, maybe having a little bit of fun, right? From what I hear, they don't let you have fun? No? Leticia? They got to have some fun. So I think it's an amazing program. You should all be extremely proud from what I understand. And I'll just ask the question, how many of you are first generation college students? So first ones in your families to go to college. Wow. That's amazing, amazing, amazing. And that tells you everything right there. And again, you should be so proud of yourselves, pat yourselves on the back. It's an amazing journey that you have ahead of you. And I'd like to walk you through my journey, if I may. So the first thing that is important is just a little bit of background on me. So I grew up in Los Angeles and lived most of my life there, went to school there, and then have traveled mostly within California and within Texas, and now back in California. A 20-year career working for basically a television station group that I grew up watching. Who grew up watching Univision? Yeah? In your different cities, right? So if you're from San Antonio, it was KWEX, Channel 41, right? KWX. So there's something very special about San Antonio. Who knows what is so special about San Antonio and the connection to Univision? Does anybody know? You what? Yes, but even more important, why do you think San Antonio is so significant? Not just to Univision, to the entire Spanish language media industry. Nice, nice. You knew that too? Yeah. So San Antonio is the birthplace. So in 1955, a gentleman by the name of Emilio Nicolas Sr., who's still alive, he lives in Olmos Park in San Antonio. Emilio Nicolas Sr. started Univision in 1955. In 1955, for those of you that are my age in the room, there's not too many, but in 1955, you couldn't even speak Spanish. So if you got caught speaking Spanish in school, they would hit you with a ruler or they would charge you 50 cents, and that's what lunch cost. So think about that. When you hear about companies that are extremely innovative and new and doing amazing things, Univision was started under a really interesting social climate. It's a company that we like to say was always a purpose-driven company. Have you heard a little bit about that, right? You may want to work for a purpose-driven company. A lot of people, and they say that a lot of millennials like to work for companies that have meaning, right? Where you're not just selling something or you're not just providing a service, but you are actually doing something to inform and empower the community. And that is a very special thing that I've been able to live, and my colleagues, one of them who is here, who's from the Valley, Feli Garcia. Say hi to Feli back there in the corner. She handles all of our community outreach And it's the kind of work that she does in the community, making sure that our Hispanic community understands and knows what they need, and that they get the information in their language and in culture. So it's been a wonderful 20-year career where I've had the pleasure of being in San Antonio, the birthplace. I've had the pleasure of living and working here in Austin, in San Francisco, in San Diego, and now out of Los Angeles. So you can see there my lovely family. The kids aren't that little anymore, but that's a picture of us in Austin, and now we live in Pasadena. That's my grungy Austin to LA hipster look, right? So we move on to some of the life lessons. I had the great fortune of actually giving the commencement speech at my alma mater in Los Angeles. And one of the things that I did is I just started thinking about what are some of the life lessons that I've been able to take away from this 20-year career, right? And one of the first ones that I thought of was family, right? How could you not think about your family, right? So when you look up here, that's my mom and my dad, who happened to make it to the commencement speech that I gave, I think it was last summer. A lot of students, just like yourselves, who were graduating from the School of Business and Economics at Cal State Los Angeles. But it's your family. It's your family. It's the support and encouragement that will come from your parents that is fuel for the soul, right? Fuel so that you can always feel that there is always going to be somebody that is by your side, right? Think of all the sacrifices that they've made for you. Think of all of those encouraging words and those days when you may be down, and they are there to encourage you and to stand by your side, right? And it's not just in the good times. It's in the bad times. It's in the tough times, in those difficult times when you have to make really difficult decisions, that I encourage you to always remember that your parents are going to be there, whether it's your parent, an aunt, an uncle, a family member, whoever you have in your life that has been that mentor, that has been there by your side. Don't forget about it, because life gets so busy and we forget. And sometimes I now live in the same city as my parents, and sometimes days go by and I don't call. And then I call and mom picks up. Not good. You haven't called me in a week. What? What's going on? Why don't you call? Blah, 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 blah. Right? So we all get a little bit of that. But I highly encourage you, do not forget it. Your lives are going to get extremely busier. They're only going to get busier. You think you're busy now? Wait a couple years. Don't forget about the people that have always been there, the people that will love you unconditionally, always. Number 2, ignorance is bliss. Who's heard that before? Right? So I use it in the spirit of being fearless, right? Right now you have the great fortune of not having that many responsibilities. Once you get married, once you have children, your decision-making process changes a little bit because you have so much more to lose, right? You've got a mortgage, you've got to pay the rent, you've got the kids' schools, you got to pay for your car, you got to pay for insurance, you got to do this, you got to do that. Right now, you have the great fortune of worrying about yourself. You can be a little selfish. You can worry about making sure that you are the best person you can possibly be at this point in your life. You can be fearless. And you can make sure that nothing is impossible, because it's not. Look at you here today. Would you 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago have ever thought that you'd be sitting here at the Student Union on the University of Texas Austin campus at this amazing program? Some of you might not have ever thought that that was possible. Some of you, hopefully many of you, thought that it was, and that you could see the future even beyond this event. I'd love to someday, and so would Leticia, have one of you stand where I'm standing one day, giving this speech to a whole new cohort of students. What I can tell you from my career is that if you act as if other people's perception becomes a reality of you being able to be that person that you want to be, that executive, right? That architect, that engineer, that doctor, that lawyer, whatever it is, Visualize it, and you can make it happen. Be fearless. Let that ignorance turn you into a fearless person that goes after exactly what you want. Every day. Because nothing is unachievable. It really isn't. And anybody that you hang out with, or any friends, or any family members that try and pull you back, that try and tell you, you can't do that. Why are you going to go to that school? You should stay here and go to the state school or the city college or blah, blah, blah. Get rid of that, right? You don't need to hang out with negative people. You want to hang out with positive people that are in your same trajectory, that want to see you do well, that want to see you get out of your comfort zone. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to get out of your comfort zone. So leave the nest. How about this one? We heard of this one? Leave the nest. It's good for your soul, right? So leaving the nest, what does this mean? As a community, right? As diverse communities, multicultural communities, I know myself in my Hispanic community, I have a lot of family members, a lot of fellow cousins, friends who have a hard time leaving the nest. They've had a hard time leaving the nest. And I can tell you that if you have the opportunity to leave home, to leave the city where you grew up, and venture out, whether it's to UT Austin, whether it's to Harvard, whether it's to Stanford, to Yale, to Georgetown, to wherever, please take that opportunity. Please. I highly encourage you to not be bogged down by negativity, or don't let your parents who love you so much, but sometimes their love gets in the way of good decision making. And a lot of us have heard stories of kids who get accepted to amazing universities, but they end up staying. They end up staying in the Valley, they end up staying in San Antonio, they end up staying in Kyle because they don't want to leave their parents, or because their parents don't want them to leave the house. They want them to be close so that they can come home and eat dinner on the weekends. Which is great. That's a loving parent. But you're not going to give up amazing opportunities for that. So you have to be willing to leave the nest. I can tell you that the best thing that I ever did was to leave Los Angeles and to go venture and work at Univision in San Francisco. I didn't know anybody in San Francisco. I had one friend from grammar school, and I hadn't seen him in years. But I took off. Ignorance is bliss. I was fearless. I said, you know what? I'm not leaving anything here. I'm going towards something. And I'm going to make something out of nothing. And I'm going to go and I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm going to turn it into something. And it was the best thing that I ever did, because new cities, new experiences, they give you just that. They allow you to grow. They allow you to learn. They allow you to meet new people like you're meeting today. People that are different from you, and that's good. It's a good thing to meet people that are different from you, that look different, that speak different, that like different music, have different tastes, eat different food. It makes you so much more cultured and so much more ready for the real world. So again, I highly encourage all students, all employees, that if you have the opportunity, leave the nest. Don't be afraid. Your parents will get over it, and they will accept it later on, and they will realize that it was the best thing that you ever did. Who has that issue going on at their house right now? Yeah, it never fails. And it's a tough one. It's not an easy conversation. But I'm telling you, feel bold and feel empowered to know that you're doing the right thing. At the end, it will pay off. So this talks a little bit about a lot of us in this room. I know certainly, for me, we did not grow up in privileged households, but we are scrappy. You guys know what the word scrappy is? Right? I think it's a good thing. We're scrappy. We may not have the resources, but we're resourceful, right? And I will always take somebody, I will always hire somebody that is resourceful. They may not have the best resume, they may not have graduated from the best schools, but if I could see that that person can figure things out, that is smart enough to know that they don't have the resources, but they will be resourceful to figure out how to get the job done, I'll hire that person 9 times out of 10. Always. Always. I want the person that's going to figure it out, that's going to be scrappy, that doesn't worry about sort of the drama and the circumstance, that just knows how to get the job done. And we, fortunately, because of our upbringings, we end up having to be that way. We end up having to be resourceful and scrappy and not worry about the resources that we don't have. So again, don't worry about what you don't have, especially in this day and age. There's so many resources out there for you to be able to figure things out. And that could be in anything. That could be in your schoolwork. That could be in your new job, right? Don't wait for things to be given to you. Make them happen on your own. Be resourceful. It's a huge attribute that people don't realize how critical it is in business. So this one is very personal to me, but it goes back to the leaving the nest. But it's really critical as you start your new jobs and that you start getting opportunities to potentially move, okay? So yes, moving sucks. Who's had to move in their lives? Pack up your bags, put them in boxes. I've had to move a lot, my family's had to move a lot, and it's no fun, right? It is no fun. But in life and in work, it's a great opportunity for you to move up. So for example, I would never have been able to get to where I am today had I not been willing to move, right? Had I started my career in one city and stayed in that city in my particular field of media and television and radio, if you're willing to move to a smaller city, they'll give you a bigger opportunity because it's less risky, right? So think about it. If I grew up in LA and I started working in Los Angeles, the #1 media market, the #1 station for Univision, if that business, if that station in LA doesn't do well, the whole company fails. Were they going to give me that opportunity to learn my way through in LA? No. So they said, we'll give you this opportunity to go run the little old station we're starting in Austin, Texas. You want to do that? And I said, yes, sign me up. So I got the opportunity to come to Austin. From Austin, you do well, you're successful, got the opportunity to go to San Antonio, and I was willing to move again 2 years later, right? But all of these moves are not easy. It's easier to just stay back and say, nah, I'm good. I'll just stay here in Austin, keep doing my job, I'm fine. But if you want opportunities for growth, I'm telling you, your willingness or your being proactive about willing to move is a huge benefit, especially in these economies. A lot of people right now, you can live in Austin and work and travel, right? It doesn't really matter almost where you live right now, but I'm telling you that if you are willing to move with your organization or your company, it will always be a benefit to you. I know it was for me. So the last one for today. This one is all about keep learning and always stay curious, right? And I mentioned this one as a good segue to how I want to end our presentation today. And that is, if I wasn't always curious and always trying to figure out what's next, I would not be successful in my job. I'm in media, right? Think about it. But when I started, there was a television, and some people watched it with bunny ears over the air, and some people watched it on cable. Now, very few people watch it this way. People are canceling their cable, and they're watching it where? Oh, and by the way, are you watching the 6 o'clock news? Or are you watching Instagram, Snap, Facebook, whatever is digital, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Pandora? I mean, the options and the amount of media and competition that is out there is amazing. So whatever you end up doing, again, whether it's engineering, whether it's nursing, whether you always want to stay on top of the latest trends, you always want to stay curious, and you always want to be constantly learning, right? If I had the time, man, I'd come back to school and hang out with you guys because I want to learn, and I want to know how you guys are consuming media, because my whole industry is dependent on you guys still consuming my product. And my product is content. It's television content, it's news, it's music. And I need to make sure that I stay relevant and up to date with everything that is going on. So always stay curious, especially once you get into a particular industry, and make sure that you're staying up with the trends and that you're always on the side of innovation. It's so critically important. So that's number 6. What I'd really like to leave you with is just some words of encouragement for what I think is an amazing time in all of our lives. I think that as I sit here and I look around the room and I see your faces and I see where you come from and all that you have accomplished, I cannot stop to think about how privileged and how fortunate people like myself are, because you're going to be the next generation of leaders. Okay? And there's a lot of baggage that comes with being a leader. It's important. Accept it and embrace it, because we need more leaders. We need more people like you who are out there encouraging their peers and everybody to come along for the ride. We want more people graduating from the university. We want more people. Think of it as a trickle-down effect, right? You hear a lot of the national narrative around what is happening with diverse communities, with Latinos, with African Americans, and sometimes the narrative out there is not that nice. Sometimes it's a little mean. And that's the way life can be. But it's really up to you to show that that is not the reality. The reality is that we have 80 amazing students at the University of Texas who are learning how to be great leaders. The reality is that we have a Hispanic community that is graduating from universities at a higher rate than ever before. And I've seen it. I've seen it when I've had the opportunity to speak at universities. I see that we are starting businesses, all of us, at a higher rate than ever before. We are entrepreneurial. We are becoming lawyers, doctors, engineers, Hollywood directors, movie stars. Look at the #1 song this past summer. Not this summer, but last summer. The whole Despacito effect. They gave it a name. It was called the Despacito Summer. Look what's happening right now with J Balvin and all these other musicians. I mean, Latino music could not be hotter. So I think you guys have a huge opportunity to lead and to be leaders, especially in a state that really needs you. This is a state that right now has so much to offer, and you have so much to offer this state and this country. So I encourage you to take that leadership position, go back to the cities where you live, and bring people along with you, right? You guys are so fortunate. Take everything that you learned today, everything that you learned this week, and share it, and bring people along for the ride. Thank you.